In this video, I wanted to outline my 2025 goals for my artistic development, um, and the things that I want to try to do in my art practice. So you may recall in October of this year, I talked about an artist residency at home, and then I specifically had the topic of remix. I am going to continue doing artist residencies throughout 2025, little mini studies with specific goals in mind regarding technique or theme. As far as that goes, if you're wanting to do it on your own, I again have a blog post and I will link to all of the resources I'm going to mention in this video below in the comments on the YouTube video. But I outlined the reasons that I did an artist residency and shared some of the ways that I gathered resources for those. I do need to do a recap video for Remix. I do overall think that the program was successful, but during the program, we had a death in the family, and that meant that I had to step away from my art studio for a time. Now, the benefit of doing the residency at home meant that I could pick it up whenever I was ready to again, and I did do that. Again, I need to edit the videos. I'm a little behind on that, and I will share those hopefully within the next couple of weeks. But I'm kind of excited with the shiny new concept right now. This is the Surface Design Association website. I've mentioned before that I joined them to meet other artists and have other artists to talk with. And this also gave me the benefit that during my home residency, I had people to share and discuss the specific topic of remix with in person. And that's something a lot of physical residencies that you apply for have. So if you are looking for something similar, Surface Design Association is for textile artists. If you are not a textile mixed media artist, then you can look for other programs near you. I would suggest looking at local art galleries. You can look for online classes. You can put a request out to talk with other artists in your area, and you may be able to find something similar. A lot of art galleries do art talks, and you could develop a residency program around the concept that they're talking and use that as a framework to further your own artistic practice. And that's essentially what I'm going to do with Surface Design Association. I will be hosting a meetup. You can see right here is where I am talking in detail more about artist residencies. And this and some of the other courses that I've signed up through SDA to do, they're like meetups. They're like these little mini social gatherings where we talk about process and technique and share resources. These are going to help me with the framework for what I'm going to do. I did sign up for a lot of different classes. I'm going to show you, actually, I'm going to switch to the other video and show you what materials I've started gathering for the first two courses of the year. And these little meetups are going to sort of help define what I am going to do to further my artistic practice. So just a moment while I swap the video over. Okay, so let's look at the supplies and what I started gathering together. I apologize, I'm talking a little fast today for some reason. It's one of those mental health days where I'm just zooming, I guess, and I'm stuttering a bit. So I apologize if things sound a bit off. So anyway, the first class and how I'm doing this doesn't mean that I won't be doing other studies throughout the year, but the spring classes and meetups for SDA start in February. And the first one that I'm going to be taking involves paper and fabric and stitching. So it'll be combining those together. I've started gathering my resources for each of the classes, and what I have here are rags and tissues that I have used to clean paint. Some of these are the palette papers that I had. You might recognize them from when I do the videos on the palette paper paintings. I'm going to do more stuff like that, but kind of push things a little further with fabric and with thread and stitching. I may be using my sewing machine to do some freehand embroidery as well. Part of the prep involves attaching some of the more delicate pieces, like the tissue, to can't talk. Like I said, I'm having a trouble stuttering a bit today. I am attaching the tissue paper to watercolor paper, and I'm using matte medium to do that. So what I'm hoping to do is have a bunch of these ready to go. I can stitch on them, I can rip them apart and restitch them back together. There's a lot of things that I can do. Once I have all of my tools and my resources gathered together and my materials prepped, I will do a separate video sharing what I'm using with that. So if you want to develop something similar on your own, you can. The next thing I wanted to do is to push my work dimensionally. So usually what I'm doing is more 2D. It's more flat on the canvas or like on paper or on laying flat on fabric. I have really wanted to sculpt with clay for a long time, but I have challenges with that. We rent our apartment, so I cannot install a kiln here. And it's just not set as far as safety. When you're talking about using a kiln, there's a lot of off-gassing of materials from the glazes and from the clay itself. And our apartment is not ventilated to handle that. So the solution for that is I can either go out to a studio that offers classes, or I can rent the kiln from one of the local shops here. So they have a kiln in the store, and I could bring my stuff in, but obviously that has challenges as well, because if I'm going to pay to rent the kiln, I want to fill the kiln. And then I have to think about how am I going to transport all of these ceramic pieces safely to the kiln and then back. It's kind of a pain. So I had been exploring paper mache sculpture. I have some Sculpey and I'm going to try that. But the other day I came across this tutorial for spun cotton figures. So this is like a Victorian age craft. And the lady, I'm following her tutorial. So this is in the beginning stages here. I'm starting to flesh out the shape of the mouse. She does a lot of cute things, more like ornaments and things like that. But I figured if I did the tutorial, then I would understand the basics of it. And she also gives the recipe for a natural glue that's made with cornstarch. So following her, I can get a basis for how it works, and then I can carry that into my own work using my own techniques. There is also a class at SDA for three-dimensional textile art. And so I'm going to join that meetup, and I want to find some more inspiration and resources for dimensional textile art. And that is the second phase of what I'm going to be working on for the spring. The third one I had started in October. I joined, SDA has a natural dye meetup group. I've gotten a lot of great resources from them. I have been getting books off and on over the years for painting with weeds, natural dyeing, making pigments out of earth, things like that. So I have the beginnings of the resources. I actually also have the packets of materials that I want to dye ready to go. And I have pans to make my own paint, like little watercolor half pans. I just haven't gotten around to doing it yet. And I was going to do it in the fall, but again, we had some things happen in our family. So this spring, there is an additional SDA course specifically about natural dyes, and then the natural dye resource group is going to continue meeting. So I'm going to use those two as the framework to try to make 2025 the year that I make my own paints and dye some of my own fabrics and threads. So these are just the basics. I'm going to go more into detail in future videos. I encourage you to develop your own frameworks and course of study. Again, I'm going to share the links to these items below, and I'm also going to share the link to the tutorial for this mouse if you want to try spun cotton sculpture yourself. It's really easy to get into, and the price point for the materials is very low, which is another thing that's nice over starting with pottery. It's a lower entry point. So anyway, If you are going to be doing your own studies, I'd love to hear about it in the comments. I will see you in the next video. Thank you for watching.